Awesome, Angela. Thank you so much for joining me today. I'm super excited to share your journey and your story of building a thriving photography business. Really, my goals with these spotlight interviews is to share like the ups, the downs, the good times, the tough times, the lessons, the tips, and the secrets, if you'll share them, that have helped you build a thriving photography business and join the top 1% of photographers in our industry, creating a six-figure income from your passion. And I know your story is going to inspire and motivate other photographers to know that they too can build a thriving photography business. And I think really by highlighting photographers in these interviews that are succeeding, that it gives that hope for other photographers to go, okay, I can do this too. So really to just get started, let's hop in. I'm going to let you introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about you. Where'd you grow up? Are you married? Are you single? Do you have kids? What genre do you shoot? Kind of a little bit of like that.
Perfect. Okay. I'm Angela. I'm originally from Florida, near the Cocoa Beach area. So I grew up in a very warm climate, and now I live in New York City. I live in Brooklyn with my husband and two cats. And I'm not thriving in the winter, but that's okay. Trying to get used to that. And I shoot boudoir. That is my main passion. I love boudoir so much, but I also have a wedding business with my husband that we work together and do. It's becoming more part-time now as boudoir is taking over my life, which is honestly my goal. Boudoir is what I want to shoot full time. But yeah, my husband and I do that together. He does video and I do photo, and we do almost all elopements and small weddings now.
Ah, so exciting. So do you remember the first time you picked up a camera?
Yeah, I was young in the MySpace days, actually. It was MySpace times. And I used to just like shoot photos, and my friends would be like, oh, wow, you're good at that. Can you take my MySpace photo? And I would do a lot of MySpace photos. And then it wasn't until I was like 19 that I was like, maybe I want like maybe I want like a professional camera. And I got one, and my mom got it for me for Christmas actually. And I shadowed a friend of a friend for weddings, and I did a couple weddings with her. And to be honest, I was like, oh, hell no, I don't want to do this because it was very stiff, very stressful. And it was just, I think that I just had gotten very scared off of the type of weddings. It was just not, and it still isn't the type of weddings that I would shoot now. And I kind of backed off of that, but I was like, I still love taking photos. I want to be a fashion photographer. So that was what I wanted to be. I wanted to be a fashion photographer.
I love it. I love it. Hard industry to crack. But definitely it led you down that pathway. That's awesome. So at what point did you go from loving to take pictures to going, oh, I want to make this a business or an income?
So I never knew how much I loved the people side of photography. Like, I never knew how much I would love engaging with people and meeting clients. I was honestly very scared of that for a long time. So even when I would shoot the weddings with, the friend, I was very scared of taking clients by myself. So I honestly just shot all of my friends. Like, we would do fun, kind of creative shoots. And that's how I was just doing photography for like 5 years. That's what I did. And then I met my husband in high school. We reconnected, and I moved to New York with him. He was in the military,
Mhm.
and I kind of gave it up when we lived in New York. I was an orthodontic assistant. I had been in the ortho world, the dental world, and I just worked then, and I kind of gave up photography. And then we moved to Germany on a military base. And in Germany, on military bases, there's like no jobs. And I was like, okay, well, I'm going to start doing photography again. Now's my chance. And I started shooting like friends. And then I got other people who were like, wait, can you do me? And that's when I felt like I really was like, let me try this as a business. Let me try to actually make money from this, because I had never charged before.
I'm going to go back just a second because you said something of like you were so, and I think this is very relatable. I remember in one of my jobs that sitting in a car my job, part of my job description was to market and stuff like that. And I had to go and approach, it's like an old school way of networking, but go approach businesses that were related to the business I was working at and basically ask them if we could put our information on their front desk, right? I remember sitting in the car for 45 minutes, just sweat pouring down me because I had to go and basically assert myself in front of strangers and talk to them. And so I was going to ask you, like, I just totally, and I think there's probably other people who relate because I think too, I've found a lot of photographers in the industry are introverts, extroverted introverts. They like to be around people, but it's also, they're very introverted. So how did you get over that specific hurdle of like not really wanting to talk to people?
It's so weird because I always thought I was an introvert. I was always very shy. And even when I worked at the orthodontic office and I worked with people, it wasn't like I was solely in charge of them. You know what I mean? Like I had other people and I was just kind of filling in the blanks. And this was so scary because I was like in charge of people. Like I had to keep the conversation going. So I had decided that I was just going to do a session and just try it. And it just came so natural just talking to them and like guiding them. I was like, wow, I like doing this. I never knew that. And it was like I had to force myself to do it to realize I love this.
Oh, I love that. I love that. I think for me too is it was more just doing it, like
Yep.
practicing it. It didn't, for me it didn't feel natural, but the more I did it, the more, I think it's just the more confident I got.
Mm-hmm.
And the more I did it, the more I knew like the fearful unknown that kept me in that car.
Yes.
You know what I mean? It's the fear, but once you get through it and you actually do it, you're like, oh, okay, this isn't so bad. And eventually you get to where it's like, oh, I love connecting with people. It's not this big scary thing. So I love that. Okay, so in Germany, decided you wanted to give it a go and see if you could make money at it. What happened next?
I did every type of photography. I did I attempted to do newborns, I did family, I did couples, and those were what I was shooting. And I was like, okay, not to be mean, I don't love families, and I definitely don't love newborns. Couples are fun. And I did that, and I was like, okay, I like this. And I started kind of specializing in that. And then I had done a boudoir shoot for my friend back when I was doing like my fashion photography.
Mhm.
Um, and I had another girl come to me and she was like, hey, my husband's deployed. Can you do a boudoir shoot for me? And I was like, actually, I can. I've done that before. And I did it with her and I was like, okay, this is the best because I can kind of incorporate that like fashiony photography that I really loved while still engaging with one person, because I figured out now I know I really love engaging and getting to know my clients. Whereas sometimes with couples and families, you can't really do that because they're kind of interacting with themselves. And it just kind of combined everything that I found that I loved in both photography and like the business side of things. And I was like, I love this. So then I just started offering that. And it was kind of new over there. I felt like everyone was small military base, everyone knew everyone. And it got out that I was doing this. And I was doing like 4 to 8 sessions a week of
Wow.
just women doing it for their husbands who are deployed, doing it for themselves. They're pregnant, they want to do maternity. And I just was like thrown into doing that full time. And I was like, I freaking love this. Like it's my favorite.
I love that. So what were you charging at that point?
Oh my God. So I charged $100 for a session. And if you wanted makeup, it was $50 extra. So it was $150 for a session. And I was dying. I was burnt out completely with that.
And did that include all of the digitals as well?
Yeah. So I think, I'm trying to think. So this was like, I feel like 6 years ago when I first started this. I think it was like 30, 30 to 30 to 40 digitals.
Okay, included. Yeah. I love this. And I think this is great that I just talked to, or I just was rereading, or sorry, not reading, re-listening to one of our other interviews of Kira, and she's like, "Yeah, I started. I was $75. That included hair, makeup, and all the digitals." I mean, I remember I did the same thing when we first started. You just didn't know. That's where you got to start.
Yeah.
And I think it's just part of the journey. So take me on to the next step. What happened next?
So we found out that we were moving back to the States, and my husband we had the opportunity to do some destination elopements. Like we did a Copenhagen elopement, and that's where I kind of got him involved. I was like, I need help. Can you second shoot for me? Like, here's a camera. Let me teach you how to use it. And let me tell you, I'm not a good teacher. I could never be a mentor because I get impatient and I'm just like, no, you need to know how to use this camera. So he came with me to Copenhagen and we did an elopement together. And he's like, hey, I like this too. Like, this is fun. So the army life is not for me. So I kind of knew that. And then he kind of branched out in this photography world and he was like, you know what? I don't think the military life is for me too. So we knew we were moving. We had one more base that we chose and it was a year at whatever base we chose. So I had always wanted to move to New York City.
Mm-hmm.
He lived here when he was younger and he loved it. So we're like, let's choose the base in New York and just see if we can kind of inch our way over there. So we chose the base in New York, got accepted, and I was like, okay, let's just really promote like weddings. Let's just really see if anybody wants us to do their wedding. So we started advertising over here and we booked up our first year in like 4 months. We were like fully booked. And I was just like, you want to quit the army? And he was like, yeah. And we just quit and just moved to New York City. So it's kind of crazy. And then I know when I moved to New York City, I knew that I was booking like weddings, but I was like, I really want to do boudoir. So within a week of living here, I found a studio space and I just was like, all right, guess I'm gonna do this. I kind of just kind of go with things very quickly. If you haven't noticed, I'm not very patient. When I decide something, I'm like, I'm doing it, I'm going through with it. And that's kind of what happened. And to be honest, our first year living in New York City was a lot of weddings. Like we kind of overdid ourselves. We did 40 weddings.
Oh, wow.
And yeah, and I maybe did like 15 boudoir sessions. And I knew that was kind of the factor that was like, weddings are great, but I love boudoir and I need to find a way to do it full time. I'm not really good at the marketing side of things. Like, and that's when I found you.
I love it. So I want to hop back to, you moved to New York
Mm-hmm.
and you said you advertised and booked up your entire year. So what did you do to advertise? Because I know this is a struggle for a lot of photographers. You're like, okay, I need more clients, but how do I get them?
Yeah.
What was your trick that you did with weddings?
So we joined the knot, and I don't feel like we booked very much off the knot, but I feel like it kind of boosted our SEO.
Mhm.
Um, Honestly, it was Instagram. Instagram, I would just hashtag Instagram, and then we did some upstate weddings. So we traveled all over the state of New York, and I found like wedding Facebook groups, and I would post in there. So that's really, even to this day, Instagram is really where we get any wedding inquiries that we have. So I just kind of was like all over Instagram, all over the Facebook groups. The knot, actually, I would never recommend that to anybody. Um, they're money suckers and I do not recommend the knot, but maybe the knot's okay. I don't know.
For you, it's not.
Yeah,
For other people, it might be. Yeah.
exactly.
No, I
Yeah.
love it. And I love being honest and raw and sharing. That's what these are about, because I think that's the only way, you know, to help people is to be like, hey, this is what happened. So on that note, would you share the hashtags that you use?
Yeah.
What hashtags did you use for wedding photographers?
All local. So I just really did like NYC wedding photographer, NYC weddings, NYC bride, Brooklyn bride. And I made sure to do all local. And then I feel like it's really in the local hashtags, because then we were like, hey, maybe we want to do travel weddings, and we like put in LA wedding photographer, and then we randomly got an LA inquiry. So I feel like it's the locations, but it's also consistency, which I struggle with now, because I know if I post like an Instagram post, I'll get an inquiry. If I don't post like a post for a few weeks, I'll get nothing. So I feel like that's the thing with Instagram, is it's not like SEO and stuff where it just kind of is working for you. You have to like keep working to keep getting them.
Yeah, it has to be consistent. Yeah, I
Yeah.
agree with that. And the algorithms for social media, the moment you stop, if you take a moment to breathe, then the algorithm's like, oh, this person's not relevant anymore. And so when you start posting again, it's like you have to rebuild that momentum. So totally get it. And the other question I had when you said you came back, you did the elopement in Copenhagen. I'm gonna guess you did other weddings over there because you must have had a portfolio to share and post when you went to New York.
Here's the thing that I think will shock a lot of people.
Mhm.
Is we had never done a wedding together except the Copenhagen one.
Mhm.
Um, we had never done a wedding together. I think that that would shock people. I did something in Germany, because so the thing with living over on a military base is we were only allowed to work with US citizens on that military base. We couldn't work with like German locals, because I didn't have a green card, and they were basically like, don't apply for a green card, you won't get it. So all the people on the base were already married. And I was like, oh crap, how can I do this? So I started offering wedding recreatment photos. So like for people who got married really quickly, which is very popular in the military, this was a chance for them to either wear their wedding clothes or buy a wedding dress for these photos. And I did quite a few of those. So I did probably like, but I still only did probably like 15 of those. So I was really just posting like couples photos. And I'm still honestly shocked that that worked.
Yeah. No, I mean, obviously your artwork stood out to enough people and you had, that je ne sais quoi that people wanted. So I think that's important too. Awesome. Okay. So 40 weddings in a year. Holy cow. That's almost, I mean, if you took any time off, that's almost 4 weddings a month.
Yeah.
So, but that's amazing. So then kind of when did you transition or decide to transition?
So it really, the thing with weddings is the wedding season in New York is like June to October. So honestly, the majority of them were crammed into there. And that's when I really kind of felt like, I just felt like I really missed boudoir so, so much. And I was still shooting it a little bit. Like I would have my brides who would do a session with me, which was great. But it was like, very in between. It definitely wasn't full time. And that's when I was really searching. I was like, I know I want to do this. I know I want to shoot boudoir full time. Weddings are just, they're great, but just 40 is just so much. I really, really need to figure out how to do this full time, because Instagram hashtags were not working with boudoir.
Mm.
Um, and that's when I was just looking for ways to kind of have somebody to just get, like, help me get my name out there, help get the idea out there. And so I feel like it was really the fall of 2019 where I was just feeling like weddings are great, but there's just, I really miss boudoir. And that's when I found you.
Love that. What would you say was the toughest part of building your business?
I feel like the toughest part was, for me, was honestly figuring out how to budget certain things and trying not to do everything myself, because I was doing everything myself. Like, even though my husband was a part of this business, I was so picky on how the photos were edited. Like, I would even edit his photos, and I was doing all, like, I just feel like I was taking on too much. And I feel like that was what I really struggled with when I first started my actual business.
And when did that shift for you, or when did you come to the aha, and what happened after you did that?
Um, it was honestly when things started falling through the cracks for me, when I noticed I wasn't able to follow up as much because I was too busy editing all of these photos, and inquiries would come in and I might not get to answer them because I was shooting 5 weddings in a row.
Mhm.
And I just felt like it took things falling through the cracks for me to be like, I can't handle all of this myself.
Mhm.
Um, I need help.
Got it. Love that. And then what was the first thing that you got help with?
My marketing for boudoir.
I love it. And then what changed for you when you outsourced that?
Um, I just felt like I was able to breathe. I was
Mhm.
able to breathe, and I was really able to focus on really catering and servicing my clients rather than trying to get my name out there and worry about how are people going to find me. Like when I found you, I was really able to think like, okay, they're handling my marketing for me, they're finding me literally my ideal clients. Like now I can just think of like, okay, how can I better service my clients?
Mhm.
So, and that honestly, now I know I'm not scared of people anymore like I was 7 years ago. Now I know like that is my favorite part of the business. My favorite part is client interaction,
Mhm.
explaining what I do,
Mhm.
and really seeing them change through boudoir. And that's why I love boudoir so much, honestly.
Yeah, I love that. Um, what was the difference in your business? Like, did you see any difference in revenue between before, like trying to do it all yourself and then taking the leap to outsource? Like, have you seen like a monetary, like a financial difference, or is it just an energy difference? Like, what do you feel like?
Definitely financial, especially with boudoir, because it's honestly quadrupled my income since I've outsourced the marketing because I feel like I have no idea. Like, I don't know how to market. And I was trying to figure it out while also running a business, and I was dying. So I feel like with letting that go, I definitely saw a financial increase. But also, I feel like my energy was better because I wasn't as stressed and I felt like I could output more positive energy too in my work. So it literally changed my entire life.
That's
Right.
amazing. Quadruple. That's incredible.
Yeah.
I think sometimes like when we're looking to invest or outsource that it's like, well, I'd do it if I knew it would make a difference. But I think that no matter, sometimes it takes a few tries to find the right fit, but I think that no matter when you take a leap, you learn something from it. And even if it's not the first thing that you do is not necessarily the end all be all or whatever, or doesn't give you the exact result, like I'm just speaking not specifically about you, but just for anybody watching, that there's always something to learn with each step that you take. And it's just about taking the leap and keep going. It's just taking that first step out of the car and walking into the building.
It's, it's
No matter if you're just
hard.
soaked in sweat.
Yes, it's so hard. And it's so hard, especially to spend money when you're like not exactly making that much. Because with boudoir, I really wasn't giving it the time and energy my business needed, first of all, because I was so crammed with weddings. But it was scary because I had never thought of marketing as something that needed to be an investment because weddings were just Instagram hashtags.
Mhm.
So that was the hardest leap, but honestly, like I kick myself for not taking it sooner.
Yeah, I mean, I think everything happens in the right timing, for sure. But what made the difference for you? Like, did you do research? Like, what made you go, okay? Well, obviously, hashtags aren't working. I mean, that was part of it, I'm sure. But was there anything else that gave you kind of like, okay, this is what I need?
Honestly, I was I really just felt the need to do boudoir, and I knew that I was trying so hard to get my name out there and I just couldn't.
Got it.
And I was just like, I need to take some kind of risk. And I honestly, you guys, I just felt the energy through you.
Mhm.
And I usually am pretty good about getting like a a good feeling from things. I know that's not like a good scientific business fact, but I just got like a really good feeling, and I felt you can tell when people really care and they want to help you thrive versus people who are just like, okay, let's take the money. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, totally get it. I love what you said though. I think it's a very female biological thing that we feel with our gut, and men typically are a little bit more about numbers. Not always, that's not like absolute,
Mhm.
but I'm a mix of both. I like facts, but I also I'm very a feely person as well.
Mix. I feel like that's a great mix.
Yeah. What is one thing that you wish you had known when you began your photography business?
Um, Honestly, you have to spend money to make money. I know that's not like the creative aspect of it, but I just wish that I would have known that I needed help right off the bat, because maybe if I would have known, like, okay, I need to spend some money on my business, really invest in myself, a business coach, because as my business coach, that sometimes there are things that you need help with. And
Mhm.
I wish that I would have invested in that way sooner, and I would have saved myself so much stress on dealing with issues and just handling my business as a whole.
Yeah, love that. So, for anybody watching or listening that they're like, okay, I hear you, but I don't have the funds. Like, did you save up? Did you like kind of how did you take that leap?
Yeah, I had to save up and do a lot myself. I feel like before I could really afford to invest, but also mine was a real leap of faith with boudoir, because I was like, I need help. I need to just do this investment. Like, I need to just, even if this is my last money that I have in this business, I need to spend it if I want anything bigger or greater to come out of this. So I feel like sometimes it's worth the risk.
Yeah. Well, I think you brought up a very good point in the sense of, and it's kind of like underneath what you're saying, but I want to pull it out. And I think if you know, like in your core, that this is what you're meant to do, then you find a way,
Mhm.
right? If this is just a way to make money or to pass the time, then maybe it's not time to make that investment. But I think when this is like you want it so bad that it's like, it's just there, you know what I mean? I think that's kind of what you were sharing. You're like, I knew this is what I wanted. So I had to figure out how to make it work.
Yeah, I was literally gonna find that money, even if it meant eating ramen
Yeah.
every.
Yeah, I love that. And I've heard that quite a few times is that's a conviction. And so if you're in a place like where you're struggling and you're like, yeah, well, I can't afford that, then it's not that you can't have a photography business or you can't be successful, but it's the thing that shifts is when you hit that moment of like finding the thing that you're like, no, this is it. And there's no excuses, there's no hurdles that can't be, hurdled because this is what you were meant to do. So
Yeah.
I love that.
Mhm.
Um, what would you say is the biggest mistake that you see other photographers making when they're trying to build a photography business?
Ugh, just so many free, discounted giveaway sessions, honestly,
Yeah.
and copying other people. I feel like that is something, and not being true to themselves, just kind of being like, oh, well, this worked for this person, I'm just going to copy exactly what they're doing. I
Mhm.
feel like that, because then you can't really find yourself and what makes you different. So I feel like those are some big mistakes that I see. I made the undercharging mistake,
Mhm.
but I feel like everybody starts somewhere with that. But I feel like just not being true to yourself and just trying to mimic somebody else.
Yeah, I like that. I think too, like sometimes people mimic in order to find, though, like, but that could be true in some cases and in not other cases too. Um, but yeah, I know I love that. And I'm trying to think here how to phrase what I'm trying to say. But let me hop back because I'm having like two thoughts. I'm like, think about this, but also I wanted not to forget to ask you, like, how did you decide to charge what you're going to charge? I know you said originally you were charging 150, right? For boudoir. Like, when did that shift?
So I feel like that is what's the difference between doing it as a hobby and then really like doing it as your main source of income. Because when I did it in Germany, it was my like little part-time job, and the other option was like not working at all. And I had my in-home studio, so it was in my home, and it really wasn't costing me anything.
Mhm.
Um, versus like moving here and my studio being very expensive,
Mhm.
every everything being very expensive, investing in better like equipment, camera stuff. So I feel like it was kind of like you have to charge more or you won't even make it through one session. Like,
Mhm.
so I feel like I was forced into charging more just to literally make it.
Got it. And so that brings me to kind of our next question, which is, what are the top three resources that helped you along the way? And tying into what you just said, was there something like, how did you decide to charge more? Like, what did you have a formula that you found, or did you just decide randomly like what you wanted to charge? Like, how did you decide to charge differently?
So I feel like I really, at the beginning of moving here, I just kind of added up every expense that I was spending monthly, and then my rent, and then I did it as like a bare minimum. Like, okay, if I want to survive, this is how much I have to charge, literally just to break even, to pay my studio, pay my bills, and do that. Um, and then as I started to like book up more and kind of realize like, wow, I'm just barely scraping by. I need to like charge a little more to live more. That's when I realized, okay, I'm gonna up my price. But I really just kind of saw like what the bare minimum was for me to just make it, and then kind of go from there and to see how I could grow. I honestly didn't research
Okay.
what anyone else was charging. I
Yeah.
don't know if
No, that's actually great because you naturally figured it out. I mean, obviously I teach pricing as well, and I think that the biggest mistake one of photographers do when pricing themselves is copying somebody else's pricing or looking around and creating an average of what, looking at photographers around you and saying, "Okay, this is where I'm at this skill level," and just taking an average, because pricing is so personal, and you nailed it. You have to know what your expenses are, what your goals are, and actually price according to that versus somebody else if somebody copied your $150 a shoot pricing because that's what you were charging, then, you're like, oh, well, she looks like she's busy and successful and doing 4 to 8 shoots a week. Um, and it says her pricing is $150. Well, she's successful, then that's probably what I should charge too, right? And so I think that definitely can be a train wreck. And we've seen it a lot, right? So I think naturally you actually just did what I would recommend as a business coach, is like calculate all of your specific expenses, what your minimum that you need, and then price accordingly to that. So I love that. That's fantastic. What would you say are the other top resources that helped you along the way?
I would say, as far as like learning kind of different things, I was really big into YouTube.
Mhm.
Um, you, and then Instagram helped me a ton. And then also Facebook groups, just to kind of, if I felt like I was struggling, I would look in like photography Facebook groups just to see like, hey, is everyone feeling this way? Is this like a normal feeling when starting your own business? So I feel like Facebook groups, Instagram, and YouTube really helped me.
What on YouTube was the best resource? Like, what did you learn on there?
I That's where I really learned how to use my camera in the way I knew that I wanted to be darker. So kind of figuring out camera settings and like how different lighting works and that kind of stuff. I really used YouTube for like the technical things, I feel like.
Okay, love that. And then Instagram.
that was how I kind of promoted myself and how I was able to get found. Um, that's really that was my marketing for everything.
Yeah, I love that. I think these are all great resources because obviously YouTube's free,
Yeah.
Instagram's free, and Facebook groups are free. So
Yeah.
here's ways that you can, you know, support yourself as you're growing, resources that can help you. And I think you brought also up a great point of you figured out a signature style that you wanted and then you learned how to do it. And it wasn't like people paid you so that you could do shoots and learn. You actually went out and figured it out and like took the time to learn and cultivate that. And I think that's probably a big key too, as differentiating yourself as an expert, is really knowing and being like an expert at your skill.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah. Trying to think if there's anything else. Yeah, I think probably we'll just wrap up with the last question I always ask, which is what is the one piece of advice that you would give to other photographers who are just starting out to wanting to do a business or currently building the photography business and they're kind of at a level where they're like, okay, I feel stuck and I can't reach that next level.
I would definitely invest in a business coach like you, honestly. Like, I feel like that changed not only helping me figure out how to market, but just my mindset. And I feel like that is a game changer to realize you can't do it all yourself. Like, find somebody that can help you get to that next level so you're not just trying to get there yourself.
Yeah, I love that. You mentioned mindset. Like, what about mindset changed for you?
I just feel like I was able, I don't know, I feel like I've changed so much. I just feel like really taking the time to step back and realize, okay, it's how you service your client, how you make yourself stand out is literally just how you treat your clients. And it's not really necessarily just being better, it's just being better to your clients.
Love that so much. One more question. I lied because you're in New York, which has been one of the most difficult places in 2020 to, and you're a wedding photographer. What was 2020 like for you? How did you get through it? And I know there's a lot of photographers who 2020 was just devastating for them. And you came out quadrupling your income. But I want you just to speak to what it was like for you, and maybe others can get some encouragement, and maybe you have some things within your own story that they can just be encouraged to be like, okay, this is not the end of my business or career.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like as far as my wedding business, I felt like kind of pivoting with that. So we were very flexible. We knew weddings, I mean, weddings are still really up in the air up here. So we just kind of pivoted. We were like, okay, what can we do to serve our clients who are going through a really rough time?
Mhm.
And we just kind of, if they want to elope, we changed it to an elopement. I
Mhm.
have couples who had to cancel their wedding, but they paid a deposit with us and we let them use their deposit towards just wedding photos and their wedding clothes. So I feel like just really pivoting and kind of going with things that are still being safe, but also kind of just serving our clients. And I mean, I'm having couples now who I'm like, oh, you're canceling your wedding. Well, do you want to use your deposit towards a boudoir session with me and like do something for yourself? Or so I feel like pivoting was big on that. And then with boudoir, I feel like honestly, I feel like this pandemic, and I tell this to every client I talk to now, I feel like it has really shifted the boudoir industry, for me at least, because I was getting so many clients before doing this as a gift for a partner, which is great. I still get a lot of that. But since the pandemic, most of my clients are just doing it for themselves. So I feel like really giving your clients an escape from everything that's going on and just kind of being there and giving them something to look forward to, I feel like really is what I've been trying to do through all of this. And I feel like it's really pivoting, but in a good way, because I feel like people want to do something for themselves. They want to get out of the house and do something that's still safe. So
Yeah.
I've been doing that with boudoir, and I feel like it's been really interesting to see how the pandemic has shifted mindsets. And so many women are doing this for themselves now, and I love it.
I love that. And despite being, how long were you shut down?
From March, April, May, June. So 4 months. I reopened mid-July, so 4.5 months.
And you must have just been crushing it then, between then, to quadruple your income.
I mean, it's crazy. When I opened in January, I was really busy. January, February, shut down for March. And then when I reopened, I think I did like 17 sessions in 1 month, which normally I don't do that, but everybody I want to do a boudoir session. I want to do it for me. Like I've seen it. I've been just scrolling through my phone during quarantine. I found this. I want to do it. So yeah, the first few months of reopening was very busy.
Yeah, that's amazing. Well, congratulations on all your success. That's just unbelievable. And I think it's just a testament to your commitment and just knowing what it is that you want and going after it. So I love that. Thanks so much for joining me today and sharing your story.
Thank you for having me.
Perfect. Thanks, love.
Bye.
Bye.